What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one, I'm going to be talking about the one and only SPY, the Nasdaq, the QQQs, and the indices. Break down what Janet Yellen just said about the markets that did actually help us close green today, and what could actually end up playing out for tomorrow based off the trend we saw. Now, before I break anything down about tomorrow and talk about what I do anticipate to happen, I do have to mention a couple of things before starting. Firstly, I'm not a financial planner. Make sure you take none of this as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire community as a whole. And the last thing is, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link down below in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo, the link down below, and deposit $100 into the account, you're guaranteed 7 free stocks, and 5 out of those 7 free stocks could be a free Tesla share. It's a limited time offer. The offer ends in just 8 days. Check it out before they run out. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. I have to make this video a little bit short, guys, but I just want to talk about what's happening with the markets right now. Overall, I actually predicted the market would get a bit of a pop in the morning, then a bit of a sell-off as the day went on. Instead, the market actually pumped even more than I expected. We actually broke above 395. I thought we would actually stop around there on SPY. We actually went all the way up to 399. However, I did get the overall pattern correct about the pop and the big drop afterwards, and we did get a big sell-off off this bull trap. Now, seeing that this was happening, you could tell that the bears had a lot of control as the day went on. They continued to smack us down, and they would have actually continued to hold us down much better at the end of the day if it wasn't for Janet Yellen, who started speaking again. I didn't actually know she was speaking today again. That was actually kind of surprising. And what's interesting is she didn't really say anything that was new from yesterday. She basically said that the U.S. is prepared to take further actions to ensure that Americans' bank deposits are safe. Not really anything new. And yet the market just used all of this information as an excuse for market makers to push up the markets so that SPY could close near max pain. And they actually failed to get us to max pain or even above it, because for today it was at 394, for tomorrow it's 395. She also said that, or she at least implied that the U.S. has to continue to raise the debt ceiling. I found this kind of ridiculous, the fact that she's still reiterating this, even though she had so much time to speak yesterday. And this is why the market ended up just artificially pumping at the end of the day, closing somewhere in the green. We were about to sell off pretty hard, and that's what helped us. We also had support from a lot of bulls that defended 390 today, so it was a mix of two things. Once again, we closed at 393, just below max pain at 394. A sign of weakness, because the bulls, the market makers, failed to close us at max pain like we were for the past week. That shows the market's not holding up as strongly as before. For tomorrow morning at about 6:30, not 6:30, 9:30 a.m., around the time the market opens, I believe, at least for the East Coast, Bullard is going to be speaking. And we know they have a tendency of being more on the hawkish side, so Bullard is most likely going to cause a bit of a sell-off into the open. Maybe the market's going to slow down a bit. And I'm not too sure how we're going to open, whether we push up or not, but my best guess is we're probably going to start off with a bit of a sell-off thanks to Bullard. And I'm guessing that the market's going to try to retest 390, try to get a bounce off of it. We may even turn green for some time, but overall I expect it to be kind of weak. And they're going to have to try to find some excuse to try to push the markets up if they want any hope of getting the market to close in the green again, if they want 395 on SPY. I'm actually doubting we're going to close around max pain, and I think the odds are favoring the market coming down even more. When you look at the 1 hour time frame, the MACD favors the bears. The bears are getting stronger. We're most likely going to see SPY fight for 390 tomorrow. If it breaks, 388.56 is the level to watch. And if that fails, then there's 385. But my best guess is we're likely going to see a test of 388.56. The 388 zone is likely going to be tested. And we're likely going to close somewhere around there, maybe just under 390. I believe the market has more downside, and we're continuing to see more selling pressure. I also want to add that the VIX is still at a pretty low place. Look at the daily on the VIX. This thing's up only 0.49%, right? It came all the way down to 20, bounced off that. We had kind of like an indecision day. It pushed up. It came down, then pushed up, then came down again. I think the VIX might try to continue going, and I think the VIX is going to explode as the days go on. I just want to note to everyone, tomorrow doesn't really matter that much. No matter where we close, I do believe we're likely going to have a red day, but regardless of what happens tomorrow, even if they push us up a little bit, it does not matter. We're most likely going to see downside in the markets even going into next week because Powell is the big dog. He already made it clear the Fed is going to be hawkish and the market has more downside. Neo, in my opinion, for now it still has the head and shoulders. It needs to actually hold this level in order for it to stay alive. To invalidate the head and shoulders, it has to break above 9.52. If it fails to break that, it's most likely going to come down, which I think it will by next week, to fill this gap in the 8s. I do think the odds favor that. I think that's most likely going to happen, and it's most likely going to come all the way down to 8.7 or even levels like that. Amazon, I told you all Amazon would likely try to balance, maybe try to get very close to 100. It actually went to 102. Then I told you Amazon would actually end up selling off as the day went on. Today, that's essentially what happened. We did sell off to about, excuse me, sorry guys, it's about 97.5 almost. And we ended up bouncing at the very end and barely closing in the green up 0.01%, thanks to Janet Yellen once again pumping the markets. Overall, the trend is favoring the bears looking at the MACD. Tesla did something very similar to what I predicted, but it actually didn't go as low as I thought it would go. So I was thinking Tesla would push up to 195, get a rejection, come all the way down to like retest this 188 level. If it failed, it could fill the gap down here. And if anything, it had a very similar pattern to what I was thinking, but it didn't actually play out exactly like that. Instead, Tesla pushed even higher than I thought to 200, but I didn't mark this 198.5 to 200 level as resistance. And I told you guys Tesla would likely reject, and that is what happened. We did see a big sell off as the day went on, but Tesla did hold 188 so far. If 188 fails, it's most likely going to come all the way down to the low 180s. That's where our gap is. I'm still more inclined to think that's going to happen very soon. AMC, very similar trend. She's most likely going to continue to approach $4 again as the market drags down. The odds do favor that. Nvidia, it's still up 2%, still holding up quite nicely. It didn't fully fill this gap. I think it came very close to doing so. Overall, if it wasn't as shorted, it most likely would have dropped already. But I do think Nvidia is most likely going to come down to 264 again, retest 264 very soon, possibly tomorrow. We may even get a red close tomorrow, somewhere around like the 270 area. Apple, on the hourly time frame, Apple was respecting a rising wedge. She's breaking down now. And I believe the next important level is going to be this, as I mentioned earlier, 157.5 area. I think Apple's going to retest this tomorrow. I think when Bullard speaks, we're going to likely get a sell off in the morning, a nice bounce intraday. And at the end of the day, we may get another sell off. And Apple's likely going to come all the way down. It's about 155. Where's Google? Google still holding up. It hit 107. It didn't go as low as I thought it would, but I do see Google eventually coming down to about 105. If that fails, 103 will likely get tested. I don't see way too much upside coming for Google, especially if the market continues to slide. For Meta, this thing held up pretty nicely. It held 204. I predicted that Meta would come down to about 200 and retest 200. We didn't actually come that low yet, but I do think Meta is going to eventually come to 200 and break down all the way down here into the this is like 195.67 area, which is actually a very important support zone. Finally, the dollar is starting to pop a bit. It actually bounced off 102. I predicted it would bounce around 102 to 102.5. We bounced. It looks like it might continue pushing up. If it does continue to do that, that would be bearish for the markets. Microsoft, it's up about 2%. I believe this thing is most likely going to try to continue pushing up to about 281, but it's likely going to reject if we start to get bad news affecting the banks. And I do believe it's going to just trade sideways from here and continue to downtrend, retest 277, and just continue to get lower from there. 270 is going to be important, followed by about this 260 level. I do think the odds favor downside as well. As far as AMD goes, I know I haven't really charted this in a long time. I just want to note that AMD held up okay. We managed to actually uh, retest and close above 100, which is a good sign. It might try to bounce a little into the morning, but I do see it slowly retesting 100. If that fails, the next support zone that's very important is going to be 97.6. That was the area I was actually watching for the morning. I do think AMD is most likely going to come down to there. So, anyways, guys, whether the market does bounce tomorrow or not, it does not matter too much. We're most likely going to see more downside eventually. I'm going to keep this video short for you, but I just want to make all of this as clear as possible. The bears most likely have the edge, and we're most likely going to see more downside over the next couple of trading days. All right, thank you all for listening. Remain calm, cool, and collected, and I'll see you guys in the next one. The market to the moon, and peace out.